Hello, and welcome back to the inner monologue. I am RV Alistair. I write stuff. Yeah, you should check it out. It's pretty cool stuff that I write. College worthy stuff that I write, you know? Um, so today, I'm supposed to talk about the chapter that hurt the worst to write. And before I get into this, again, I am RV Alistair. I am partaking in a challenge where I'm trying to create 75 videos in 75 days just to try and build more consistency and to make this part a little bit easier because I do not have the easiest time talking to cameras. I am a writer because I prefer to write than talk, but we live in a new world. And in order for me to sell books, I have to sell myself. Oi. But in the book Blue Lights, my debut novel, there are a couple of difficult scenes. This is not the most difficult scene that I've ever had to write. But for this book in particular, of like the books that I currently have published, the most difficult scene to write was in chapter 16, I believe. You see, with Blue Lights, I followed a extremely simple formula when it comes to writing. And by extremely simple, I mean extremely simple formula. And it's just a matter of, I'm pretty sure there's a name for this, but I just don't know names of things, people, places, all that stuff. I forget my own name sometimes. Anywho, establish the norm, break the norm, the new norm. That is it, that is all. You see this, or at least I see this, in classic movie, Back to the Future. All three movies are an example of this, where you are first introduced to the movie when you are given what normal life looks like for Marty McFly. And then, time machine, woo woo woo, magic, we are in a new type of normal. Apologies, my person was moving around and I just don't like recording when people are around. The weekends are rough because of this. They're not at work and they're just in the house and I'm recording and it's awkward. But anywho, I was saying, formula that I followed: establish the norm, break the norm, establish new norm. Done in Back to the Future. Back to the Future, we get the normal life of Marty McFly, what his home life looks like with his family, what he typically does, like goes to visit the doctor, the scientist, what his school life looks like, things of that nature. And then we hit the time machine and we are breaking the norm because now we are in a different time period. And the thing is that we see the exact same type of scenes, literally down to the exact same camera angles happening in this break of the norm. So we are experiencing pretty much almost the same day, but in a different time for Marty McFly. And then when we get back from the future, I'm sorry if I'm spoiling for you. It's a like 30-year-old movie. It's older than a 30-year-old movie. It's like a 50-year-old movie at this point. Yeah, but great movies. Go watch all three Back to the Futures. Anywho, then we get back and we have established a new normal. Things are different now. They're not exactly the same as they were before, but we are now experiencing what it's like after he has returned from the future. with things being like slightly different. Again, with some of the same shots that we were getting in this first original sequence happening in this new sequence, but it's different. Now, when creating blue lights, I wanted to have this like simple formula, just like with Back to the Future, where we're pretty much redoing the same types of things, but you see how everything shifts based off of the actions that are happening in between. So we get 3 different Friday nights because the boys have a Friday night ritual that's established in the first 2 chapters. So they are in the march band on a drum line. So we see what a typical Friday night looks for them. Chapter 1, chapter 2. They go to the game, obviously. They do their drum battle. They get into trouble after their drum battle because they trash talk like a lot. And then afterwards, they call Dante's mom, ask permission to go to a party. They typically go to a party at Jess's house. Major dances. Dante controls the music. They have fun. They don't stay too late. They go home. Well, they go back to Dante's house. Friday night ritual. But because of all the events that happen between chapter 1 and the next Friday that happens, you can see the break in the norm because of the events that happened, because of what the boys went through. Sorry, I need liquid. I have achieved liquid. So without telling you like the traumatic events that the boys have experienced from one Friday to the next Friday, I will say that, and not all traumatic events, also good events, because it's no spoiler that the boys end up like feeling each other like a bit too much. So their romance is already established by the next Friday. So that's a new normal. Them figuring out like how to operate together as a couple, and you see those moments of like awkwardness where it's just like them, oh, I used to dab you up at this point, but now it's like, oh, reaching in for a hug. Like, is it okay for me to hold his hand? Is it okay for me to try to kiss him? Like, it's just awkwardness between. But then there's also these like dark and quiet moments. The first chapter focuses in on this joy that Major holds on to, that he tries to like keep, and this radiates from him like he's just pulsing with joy. And it shows up in the way that he runs, in the way that he looks at the stars, in the way that he dances. But that joy is clearly gone in chapter 16 when they get to the next Friday, the next football game, the next party afterwards. They're still trying to do the things that they normally would do. But everything has changed. Everything is different because of the actions that have taken place. So there is those like awkward moments of like trying to figure out romance, but there's these dark moments as well where they have to try and talk about what happened when they can't really talk about what happened, where they would just go quiet for a while or fear would overtake. And one of the observations that the narrator, main character Dante, makes in chapter 2 when they go to the party for the first time, that we witness them going to the party, is that when Major dances, he dances like with his whole body, with his whole heart, with his whole soul. And it creates this like bubble of pure joy around him that just like draws people in and attracts people. And then In chapter 16, they're at the same house, they're at this party again. But when he describes his dancing, it's as though he said he's dancing like this is his last night of freedom. Because it very well could be. So, writing that like do over of a Friday night for them and changing it to be this like, to have these darker undertones to it hurt because I knew that I wanted the main focus of the story to be on the joy, but I also knew that there was going to be times where you have to make it apparent of the absence of that joy. And this was a time when the joy was not there. Like you can tell Major was fighting for it, but it was slipping away so much easier than it was coming. And then there's the extreme disruption of the norm. So, like, Major sees blue lights from outside of a window with broken shades while he's on a dance floor and he freezes. And then he does what he always does, he runs. And before, he would always run whenever he's seen cop cars coming, but it was like a game to him before. And there was a way that he ran that showed that like he was just full of innocence. No cop would even try to stop him because you can just tell, you could see that he had done nothing wrong, that he was just enjoying life. But that night, when he ran, you can see that that innocence was lost, gone. He ran like he was running from something, not like he was running to something. And to break this character like that hurt, and especially to show you both sides so you can make these parallels, it was difficult, painful. And then too, again with the breaks of the norm, I've told you that every time he ran before, no cop would ever even think about stopping him, but this time they were for him. They stopped. They held him at gunpoint because his mother had called the police and had made him seem like such a threat. So she described him as someone dangerous, so they treated him as danger upon seeing him. They did not shoot. Thankfully, this was happening right outside of his and Dante's homes. So Dante's mother was able to get through to the one of the officers, shouting to like look at him, to really look at him, to recognize that this is just a boy. And there's this line that I still think about a lot that I wrote. And it has everything to do with like how the police officers were looking at Major at this point. And Dante comes to the conclusion that all dark skin must look monstrous under blue light. at least to them. And they took them. So that was like the hardest chapter in Blue Lights to write. Just because the matter of me getting the chance to write the ideal scenario of what this kind of night could look like, and then turning around to write the absolute worst of what this exact night could look like. And then, like, we get introduced to another Friday night at the very end with their new norm being established, but that, like middle ground, that was hard. And this is, again, a, like, extremely simple writing pattern that one can use. Just establish the normal, break the norm, establish the new normal. And you can literally do it with repetition. It's done not only in Back to the Future movies, but it's done in a lot of movies. And it's an effective way to tell a story. Yeah, I'm done for today. I am RV Alistair. Please do the whole little like, subscribe, all that joint. I'll be back tomorrow to talk about what's on the list for tomorrow. What chapter do readers love the most? Oh, we get to talk about the tree. Maybe. I might have to actually ask some readers what chapter they like most because it's blend, man. It's either 4, 6, or 7, or whatever chapter that was when they were in their bedroom. Well, in Dante's bedroom, talking at the window. But it gotta be one of those. Anywho, we'll find out tomorrow. I'm RV Alistair, and I am out for the day. Bye.